ESPN had a total buzzkill. The total buzzkill. All of you had a total buzzkill. Dallas won last night, and nobody wanted that to happen. A few face painters wanted it to happen. I'm not even sure the face painters wanted Dallas to win last night. So they did. It wasn't very good. I got to tell you, I don't say this very often about NFL games because football is just science to me. But the officiating was horrible. By NFL standards, a lot of college officiating is pretty bad. But last night by NFL standards was pretty awful early in the game. And, I thought it's one of the few times that I've watched a game on Amazon. I think their pregame and postgame show is actually pretty good. It's got a little bit of energy and some jokes and stuff. And I think Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels are pretty good, but I'm confused a little. There was a horrific call. It was a face mask call early in the game, and it didn't, was it that big of a deal? Well, yeah, it would have been a first down for the Giants, and they didn't have a whole lot of those. And it was a face mask penalty called, I believe, on the Giants. Well, either way, it was a absolute swing and miss. And I guess I don't quite understand in broadcasting. Maybe you would argue, hey, Jeff, the next play is up. You got to move along. I think you got to hammer those things. I think that's interesting to people. I think there's shock value when there is good reason to rip a bad call when it's a bad call, because usually they don't get them wrong. I mean, the NFL, it is pretty remarkable how good they are, the officials. And it's pretty remarkable how quick and easy the instant replay is, and you're on to the next one. Last night's replay should have been stopped and replayed at least 6 or 8 times. And it should have been ripped. And then you go to the guy, I can't remember who the referee analyst was. Bob, how in the world they missed that? And then Bob has to say, I don't know. This is outrageous. It was just an outrageous miss. In a game that's boring, seems to me you got to find stuff like that to point out. There were penalties all over the place. A lot of them were legitimate calls. A lot of them were legitimate holding. But every play in the first half of that, Al Michaels did a good job cracking jokes about that. But I thought it was over the top. I think some of the calls were over the top. I'm not saying that just about Dallas. It was just, by NFL standards, a badly officiated game in a sport that rarely has those. It's not that often you see a call and go, wow, that is incredibly wrong and it's horrible. But that's what happened last night. The quality of play was bad and the quality of officiating was bad. They feed off of each other. But that's not what people care about. What people cared about was piling on. And you're really, really bummed it didn't happen. So ESPN didn't miss a chance, of course. The question that was posted earlier, it may not be a bad idea. It must not. I live in the media business, and it's about viewers and listeners and clicks. So obviously, whenever you can drop some Cowboys chum in the water, you do it. You just do it because it's easy chum in the water for all of us. The question posted earlier was this, and you can answer it yourself. Should Dallas fans feel better or worse after last night? Okay, answer that however you want. However you want. Try to be somewhat analytical. I think the answer is somewhat better. Somewhat. Here's why it's somewhat better. First of all, you have to have some perspective to begin with, which seems pretty impossible when it comes to Dallas. But I'm going to say somewhat better. One, they won. On a short week, you're usually going to suck in the NFL. It's hard. It's impossible to be fresh. It's impossible to be fresh Sunday to Sunday. And the turnaround is not going to produce quality football. I mean, most of these Thursday night games typically are not going to be very well played because these guys are beaten up. Dak Prescott was solid. CeeDee Lamb was off the charts. Malik Neighbors for the Giants is ridiculously good. There's some flashes of brilliance that you knew about. The Dallas defense played pretty well. Dak Prescott was sharp, and they won. Their defense played pretty well, and they won. If you're realistic about it, I know that's impossible, but if you're realistic about it, I think it's a 9 to 10 win team. It's not a 13 win team. So I'm not quite sure what you want to do with that question. Do I still think they might be a 9 or 10 win team? Yeah, I do. I don't know what you think of that, but I think that's probably the trajectory. So the Giants aren't very good, but they're slightly better than most people thought. It is what it is, and that's a buzzkill. So, of course, what do you think? What do you think? It's time to pile on. It's time to pile on. When in doubt, pile on the Cowboys. Here goes Stephen A. Smith. Somehow, some way, last night was a train wreck.
Erroneous element, Swagoo, to what you just articulated. You said the fans live and die with the Cowboys. I can make a legitimate argument in this day and age that that's simply not true. Now, because if that were the case, you understand, when you look at it, a cat has 9 lives, not 29. How many times can you die? How many times?
Oh,
the Dallas Cowboys can't do anything. They haven't done anything for the last 29 years. You understand? They haven't made an NFC championship game in 29 years. How many deaths can you experience? That is the thing that we need to understand about the Dallas Cowboys, and you don't need to let the fans off the hook, the disgusting noise fan base that they are. It is nice to hear them quiet these days because they seem to know for the first time, damn, we ain't good enough. And they were disillusioned for 28 years. But reality is starting to kick in. I'm seeing it in a way that I haven't seen it before from Dallas Cowboy fans. I dare say, Al, I'm beginning to feel a little bit sorry for them. Sorry for the Dallas Cowboys fans. I'm kind of.
That's a lot. I'm kind of
feeling sorry for them.
Don't you do it.
I really am.
Don't you buy it.
I really am.
Don't you buy it. He lying.
I really
he lying. Tell the American public he lying.
Okay, you get the bit. It's pretty good. Here's the problem. They are what they are. Like I said, it's 9 or 10. Quarterback is good. Stop freaking out. Receiver is really, really good. He's got to work a lot, man. They have to. The effort and the energy that is expended by Dallas to do well is too much. I know that sounds like a crazy analysis, but it's captured by just a few players doing everything for them, and you got to be able to spread that around. There's no way in that sport. That sport is all about energy and health, and you can't keep that energy. CeeDee Lamb, that guy's work rate is, which is a soccer term, and just you can't keep up that pace. There's just so much dumped on one guy. It's a scary shelf life. He's amazing. I got to say this. He's amazing. His work rate and the ability to stay healthy is amazing. Therein lies the problem. So I think they're a 9 or 10 win team. Do with that whatever you want. Feel free to disagree, say I'm crazy. Problem is the margin of error when you just don't have enough good players. And the margin of error can be exposed because 2 defensive linemen are now hurt. One of them is Micah Parsons. And most likely he's not going to play a week from now with an ankle problem. And they won't be able to survive very long. They won't be able to make the playoffs if he misses very many games, not just because of this injury, but if that stuff just starts piling up. And he's out apparently for next week. They play Pittsburgh, which is, it's going to take a high work rate to win that game too, because neither of those sides are good. And then DeMarcus Lawrence is out for a few weeks. So that margin of error, you see how quickly it comes apart. Problem I see for Dallas is that margin of error is thin. There's just not enough good players. You're going to be hit by injuries, and out of nowhere, maybe Washington is pretty good. That's the one thing I think that could get Dallas this way of being a playoff team, that Washington, we didn't see this one coming, that Washington could be good enough to take their spot. And that might be true. If Dallas isn't healthy, that might be true. There's no piling on necessary. That's as straightforward as I can be. I know it's not the dumpster fire everybody was hoping for. I do think the coach gets fired no matter what. No matter what. But it's not happening after last night.